So you've learned your bar chords. What comes next? Well, rather than throwing a whole bunch of random new shapes at you that you can't actually apply to your current understanding of the guitar, I want to show you the best way to advance your chord library while still being able to integrate things into your everyday playing. And the way that we're going to do this is with 7th chords, and not just any 7th chords, but ones that you can drag and drop into your chord progressions without worrying whether or not they're going to sound good. They will always work. But before we get into things, there's something I need to tell you guys. I actually wrote a book. Well, kind of. It's more of a survival guide, and I call it the Guitarist's Companion. And I want to give it to you completely free. So you can download it right now by following the link at the top of the description of this video. Inside, I've included cheat sheets for every major scale, the chords in every key, including 7th chords, and every musical interval. Major thirds, perfect fifths, minor sevenths, and all the rest. It's short, to the point, and not overwhelming at all. I've made the little bit of music theory very clear and easy to understand as well. So again, if you want to grab it, the link is in the description. And by the way, don't forget to check this little box here so we can stay connected. I have a lot more cool guitar stuff coming very soon that I promise you won't want to miss. All right, back to the lesson. So the theory here is pretty simple. And if you already know this stuff, please bear with me and don't skip ahead, because where we're going with this is probably going to be new to you. In every key, we have 7 chords that naturally fit together. And these chords just follow the major scale that corresponds with the key. So the key of C major follows the C major scale. Whether the chord that corresponds with the individual notes from within the scale is major or minor just depends on its number. So chords 1, 4, and 5 are going to be major, chords 2, 3, and 6 are going to be minor, and then the 7th chord will be diminished. Boom, there's every natural chord in the key of C major. So you might already know that, but we're going to take things one step further, because these numbers also tell us which 7th chord we can use. And again, these are all naturally occurring chords inside the key. So we can feel free to use them whenever we want, as long as we're playing within that key. So going back to our numbers, the 1 and 4 chords are going to be major 7 chords. The 5 chord is going to be a dominant 7 chord, which we commonly just call a 7 chord. The 2, 3, and 6 chords are all going to be minor 7 chords. And then the 7th chord is a minor 7 flat 5 chord. As you can see from our little graphic here, there are 4 different types of 7th chords, and I'm going to show you a shape for each of them using the E shape, then using the A shape. So E string first, that means it's going to be based on the E shape bar chord that's rooted on the low E string. So something like this F major chord right here. So we're going to start things off with the major 7 chord shape. So that one's going to look like this. It's a little bit of a finger twister, but it's not too bad. I like to play it with my thumb, like this, and you are muting this A string here. To play this chord, it makes it a lot easier, and then we are obviously not playing that high E as well. So if we go from the original F major, like that, and now we've got this. Sounds pretty cool. Next up, we've got our minor 7 shape. So we'll use the A minor for this one, just so that we kind of stay in the key of C major. So this one's based on a regular A minor bar chord, and all we're doing is removing this pinky. This one's super easy, feels very similar to the bar chord that you already know. Next up, we'll do our dominant 7 chord, also just called a 7 chord. And in the key of C major, that is our G chord, our 5th chord in the key. So from the G major bar chord, all we have to do is lift up our pinky, and we get our G7, just like that. It's important to make sure that you're barring well enough that this note, the 7th, comes through nicely, but otherwise it's pretty simple. Next up, we've got the 7th chord, and this one is always a little bit weird because instead of being based on a major or a minor chord, it's based on a diminished chord. But again, this one is also based on the E major shape, so it is for a B chord, and we're going to start off with the B minor. So it's going to look like this. But we have to make a bunch of adjustments to make this a B minor 7 flat 5, and it's just going to look like this, okay? Those 4 notes. We actually can't play the top 2 notes there because it would complicate the shape even more, but it does sound really cool. And that would allow you to play all the natural 7th chords from in the key of C major if we just stayed on that low E string. So we've got the F, which is the 4 chord, right? Then we've got the G, the 5 chord, which is dominant 7. We've got the A minor 7. Then we get to this B, the 7th chord. Then we get back to the 1. We can keep going. get all the way back up to the F. And we can just keep going. Okay, A string next, meaning they'll be based on the A bar chord shape that is rooted on the A string. Once again, we'll start with the major 7 chord. In this case, we'll do the C major. So from our C major bar chord, I like to play it like this. You can play it however you want. What you have to do is just make a little adjustment. It just looks like that. Next, we've got our minor 7 chord shape. So we'll move up to the D minor, again, staying in the key of C major here. So the 2 chord in C major, coming from a regular D minor bar chord shape. All we have to do is remove the pinky. This one is gonna feel a lot like the dominant 7 that's rooted on the low E. The shape is almost the same, just moved up a string set, but it is a minor 7 chord when played here. I love playing that chord. I use it for pretty much all my minor chords. Next up, we've got our dominant 7 chord. And since we're sticking to the key of C major, that means that G is our only 7 chord, right? Because it's our 5 chord. And normally you'd play it back here on the low E string, but for the sake of illustration, we're gonna play it all the way up here. So we start with a G major bar chord. And to make this a G7 or a G dominant 7, that's all we have to do. It looks like that. You can play all the notes if you want to. And once again, we get to the 7th chord, that weird shape. We play a minor 7 flat 5. And instead of playing it on the low E, we'll play it on the A string. So a B note is right here. And this shape is gonna look like this. Just those 4 notes. Here, when I compare it to the other shape we already learned, the exact same notes, right? And if I played these chord shapes up the entire scale, it would sound like this. Okay, that covers all the most essential 7th chords. So what comes next? The best thing that you can do from here is work on adding these 7th chords to your chord progressions in other keys. So if you haven't done so already, I'd recommend picking up the Guitarist Companion and heading over to pages 4 through 6, where you will find the cheat sheet for all the 7th chords in every single key. There'll be a link to the free download up in the middle of the screen for you now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.